take the floor to support the amendment from my good friend, the senator from Wyoming. I can understand his frustration, having been through what he described in the process in the committee where this bill allegedly was marked up, although it's unrecognizable. The things that he was able to get in, thought were in, disappeared. He also has another committee on which I join him, and that's the Small Business Committee. So there's no one better than an accountant from Wyoming who has small business experience, who has served on the Help Committee in drafting this legislation to outline the problems with this bill. And we haven't even heard him speak at great length about his background in accounting, but this bill, filled with gimmicks, 10-year taxes and 6-year spending, is overwhelming. But he is correct when he says that the costs, according to the CBO, will fall on the back of workers, the costs of the employer mandate, and they will fall disproportionately on young workers, teenage workers, particularly minority teenagers who have a very high unemployment rate now. He said, and I'd have to agree with him, that it appears that Congress doesn't understand how small business works. Clearly, the administration doesn't. When you look at how this bill was done, on Sunday, House Democrats accomplished what we thought was unimaginable. They successfully passed the health care boondoggle that the Democrats passed here on Christmas Eve, where they stuffed our stockings with a partisan 2,700-page bill, chock full of political payoffs, kickbacks, and sweetheart deals, some of which my friend from Arizona mentioned. But this Sunday, the House Democrats ignored the will of the American people and on a party line vote passed this $2 trillion bill that will increase health care costs, raise taxes, and cut Medicare for seniors. Despite the story Democrats are now trying to sell to the American people, this $2 trillion bill is one the President has now signed into law, containing the Louisiana Purchase, sweetheart deal for Connecticut Hospital, several more deals on the side in exchange for votes and so on, is one that the American people don't want. They say no to this government takeover. I stand with the American people who say repeal the bill and replace it with the things that we need. We need to repeal the bill, enact real health care reform that will lower health care costs and not break the banks of taxpayers or take Medicare from seniors. And that's exactly what we propose to do. I've joined several colleagues in co-sponsoring a bill that would repeal this monstrosity, because we need to get back to business to give the American people the health care reform they deserve, not the bill they don't want. But this Christmas health care bill is not the only legislation to which American people have said no. They also don't want this so-called reconciliation bill, which is going to force the American people to reconcile them to even higher taxes, even more cuts in Medicare. This is the kind of thing that won't fix the problem of the American people. It will make them worse. If you thought the cuts to seniors in the previous bill were not bad enough, this reconciliation bill will cut services even more, and taxes will go up. But, Mr. President, as my colleague from Wyoming said, right now we need jobs, and that's what the American people are telling me they want. It can't be any clearer. 1 in 10 Americans is unemployed. A fellow Missourian, Harry Truman, once said, for these people, it's not a recession, it's a depression. And with these kinds of dismal unemployment numbers, it's no surprise that polls keep telling us that they want jobs created, not the government to take over health care. It's not just the polls. People in Missouri have been stopping me on the street. I get emails, phone calls, and letters to my office, but they stop me wherever I go, from a grocery store to the post office to restaurants. They don't want this job-killing bill. They want a job-creating effort. They don't want the monstrosity of a health care bill. Unfortunately, the majority in this body and the other body have ignored their demands. This bill undermines employers' ability to create jobs, and by extension, it extends the recession and all the misery associated with it. Now, most people, I would hope, would recognize that small business is the engine that creates the jobs in the United States. People who are informed, as we would hope members of this body are, know that most small businesses are taxed as individuals, as proprietorships, partnerships, or sub-S corporations. That's why the small business tax relief in 2003 cut taxes and led to the creation of 8 million new jobs. Despite what some of my colleagues on the other side believe, it is not the government, it's not a massive government stimulus bill that creates jobs in the private sector. In fact, the massive stimulus bill discourages it. The reconciliation bill will be even a bigger blow to job creation. And the timing, when unemployment is still too high, is a perfect storm, because the 2003 tax cuts are expiring. So these small businesses are already facing one boost in their taxes. Now they're going to get several more. Pair these two together, and the effect is that Congress is piling an overwhelming burden on small business. The tax on health insurers will result in increased premiums. However, those who self-insure, like big businesses and not-for-profits like labor unions, are exempt from this tax. It's not going to hurt them. This means those who are forced into the fully insured market, like small businesses, will bear the burden of the premium increases. Now, the president and the majority may tell you that the tax credits they're giving tax credits to help small business. Well, they're not going to be fooled by that. The tax credit expires after only 5 years, and if you have 11 employees and hire another one, it starts phasing it out. So you can't have your business grow. If you raise the salaries, you lose the benefits. The reconciliation bill makes things worse. It increases the penalty under the employer mandate from $750 to $2,000 per employee, on top of all the other taxes. And if you're already offering your employees insurance in this high-cost market, and the government decides it's not good enough, they hit you again, or that it's too expensive. If that wasn't bad enough, both full-time and part-time employees will be counted. The majority wants the American people to think they aren't really hurting business with this reconciliation bill. They like to talk about sticking it to or raising taxes on the wealthy. They want the American people to believe, and I believe the American people are too smart to know, that these new taxes are not going to just hit the CEOs of Fortune 500 companies, or professional athletes, or entertainers, or wealthy lawyers, or Hollywood moguls, or international finance speculators. That's what they charge, but what my other colleagues on the won't tell you, the other side of the aisle, is the collateral damage will destroy small businesses. Who are these rich the Democrats want to target? As high as 79%. Some figures say of those paying taxes at the highest rate have a large part, at least a small part, of their income from small business. Small business is the backbone of the country. 99.7% of all employers' firms are small business. Over half of all private sector employees are in small business. 44% of the total U.S. private payroll. And small business generated over 64% of the net two jobs over the past 15 years. Despite this importance of small business, we are facing a new employer mandate which the Enzi bond amendment would strike. And I urge my colleagues to have a heart, understand that the people they're hurting are not just small business. It's the people who work for small business, or who would work for small business, will be denied the chance to get a job in small business because of the increasing costs that this bill puts on them. This bill takes away incentives for small business to keep the workers they have, to hire and expand. And some of these small business, the owners who think now is not a good time to expand their business or hire more people, they cite in a poll, political climate is the second most cited reason they're not doing it, after poor sales. The government is literally prohibiting economic growth. Small businesses are struggling. They're struggling in this economy to be able to offer affordable health insurance. I have worked for years with people like Senator Enzi and other colleagues to get small businesses permission to go together in nationwide purchasing pools and buy their insurance in the national market, like the big employers and the unions do, so they can get better rates, get the administrative savings. Well, we can't get it through. This would be the time to do that. It wouldn't cost the taxpayers anything. It would save the taxpayers money. Allow people to purchase health care across state lines. You can see auto insurance advertised in their cutthroat competition to give you the best deal. Wouldn't my folks in Missouri who are having trouble affording health care like to be able to look for a national health care plan? They'd love it. If you care about the jobs in this country and the future of the economy, you cannot vote for a reconciliation bill which will further devastate the most important job-creating sectors. It's not only a bad bill, but it'll make the struggling market worse. Mr. President, how much time do we have remaining on this side?
6 minutes remain.
Mr. President, I want to add one other thought. In the 20 years I've been in the United States Senate, I've traveled around the world, and I've seen remarkable changes that have come in countries throughout the world, particularly after the fall of the Soviet Union. With the fall of socialism and communism, countries around the world immediately began to look to the United States as the economic model. They saw our progress. They saw what we were doing because of the system we have. Our free enterprise system demonstrated that successful business, successful entrepreneurs can provide opportunities. This is a classic case of a rising tide lifting all boats. That's why countries from some of the least developed to the reasonably well developed want to mimic our system. They're not looking to Denmark or Sweden with their very high tax rates as a model. They see the difference between a government-controlled economy and a free economy with appropriate government regulation. They know in the free economy, the free marketplace, entrepreneurs can go forward and come up with an idea, take a risk their fortune, risk their ideas, and go out, make money that will allow them to hire more people and provide benefits for the community. Unfortunately, when our president says that health care should be the model for the role of the government in the economy, I'm afraid he's talking about the European socialist model, which has demonstrated that the economy does not grow as quickly as the United States economy. They have high levels of unemployment. And what does government-created high unemployment do? It generates more social welfare and transfer payments. These transfer payments put pressure on governments to raise taxes even higher, make more people dependent upon the largesse of the federal government, and further depress the incentive for entrepreneurs, men and women with good ideas who want to build a job and want to hire people. Last year's stimulus program did a tremendous job of putting more people on government payrolls at the state and local level and the federal, state, and local level. But it didn't do much to create jobs in the private sector. The private sector in America, I believe, has historically been vibrant. It will create jobs despite increasing government taxation, deficits, and regulations. And they may do that for a while, but I can tell you that the number of jobs will necessarily be far less than what the free market system could create if it were not inflicted with this increasing government role, government burden on businesses. Using its history as our guide, health care, the reconciliation bill, and the other proposals the majority has planned are likely to lead to a longer recession, continued high unemployment, and a lower standard of living for all Americans than would otherwise be possible. That is the source of the anger among the public. No one is against health care reform. You can tell that. You can tell that from the angry people I've met. The clerks in a store, in a hardware store, said, "Don't take away my health care. I want some reforms in it, but I don't want to lose my health care." And that person, I told her she would lose her health care. She wouldn't be able to get the same plan. I said, "I agree with you. I want to stop this bill. I want to get common sense reforms that will really help more people get insured, get better deals, and do it without raising costs, cutting Medicare." Americans really understand what this type of health care reform will do to the good health care system we have now, what it will do to our economy. This is a real danger that the people understand. That's why they're angry, and I'll tell you, they are angry. They're angry at me. They call up my office and they're yelling at me. I said, I'm on your side. They said, yeah, I know, but we're angry. We're angry. We don't want to see it go through. They are concerned, and we are concerned about our families, about the economic prospects for our children and grandchildren, because they are going to be carrying the burden on the backs of the heavy spending that we do today. Mr. President, I see my colleague from Wyoming rising, so I will end my remarks here.